As the time is 1:15 p.m. and quorum has not been present for 15 minutes since the appointed time the meeting was to be held, under Section 31 of Meetings Local Law 2001, this meeting shall not take place and stands adjourned until the next ordinary meeting of Council on the 18th of March 2025.
Almighty God, we, the representatives of the citizens of the City of Brisbane, are assembled here to strive and care for the welfare of our city and all its people. Lord, we ask that you guide us in the decisions we make today. Amen. Amen. Brisbane City Council acknowledges this country and its traditional custodians. We acknowledge and respect the spiritual relationship between traditional custodians and this country, which has inspired languages, songs, dances, law, and dreaming stories over many thousands of years. We pay our respects to the elders, those who have passed into the dreaming, those here today, those of tomorrow. May we continue to peacefully work together in gratitude, respect, and kindness in caring for this country and one another. Please be seated. I declare the meeting open. Are there any apologies? And there's no confirmation of minutes. Oh, sorry, confirmation of minutes, please.
Chair, I move that the minutes of the 4,759th meeting held on Tuesday, the 4th of March 2025 be received, taken as read and confirmed.
Seconded.
It was moved by Councillor Dixon, seconded by Councillor Gifney, that the minutes of the 4,759th meeting of Council held on 4th March 2025 be received, taken as read and confirmed. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
Point of order, Mr Deputy Chair.
Yep, point of order.
I've just had a phone call from Councillor Massey who says she's locked out of the building. So I want to make sure that the doors to City Hall, number one, are open for councillors to come, and number two, for the public to attend the meeting. So can we check with security that she is able to enter the building? She's not at the councillor's entrance, so I'm not sure where she is.
Yeah, look, we'll arrange for Councillor Massey to enter the building. Question time. Are there any questions for the Lord Mayor or Civic Cabinet Chair of any of the standing committees? Councillor Aderman.
Yeah, thank you, Acting Chair. My question is to the Chair of City Standards Committee. Councillor Hutton, the Shrinner Council is committed to making sure Brisbane's parks and public spaces are clean and safe for everyone to enjoy. Can you please update the Chamber on the decisive action we have taken to keep it that way?
Councillor Hutton.
Thank you, Chair, and through you I thank Councillor Adderman for the question. Chair, at the heart of our approach is a simple but vital belief that everyone deserves a roof over their head. Homelessness is a serious and complex issue, and one that requires more than just rhetoric, it requires action. That is why the Shrinner Council is committed to connecting vulnerable people with real housing solutions, while also ensuring our parks and public spaces remain safe for the broader community. The reality is, Chair, that the Department of Housing has services available to assist rough sleepers, whether it's hotel accommodation, temporary shelters, transitional housing or permanent accommodation. But for this assistance to be effective, people will have to accept it. In the lead up to the tropical cyclone Alfred, the Department of Housing engaged with 30 individuals sleeping rough in one of our parks. Of those, 13 refused all support. Chair, we will not sit and allow our parks to become entrenched with encampments while crime and drug use take hold, making our public spaces unsafe for local families and residents. We've already seen the devastating impact of unregulated encampments in other cities. It is unsafe, not just for local residents, but for the very vulnerable people who need support. Here in Brisbane, we are determined to prevent our parks from becoming places where people at risk are struggling and where violence goes unchecked. We have heard firsthand from members of the community who feel unsafe during the increase in rough sleeping and camping in parks. One of the most concerning examples has been the Musgrave Park, where local Yuggera woman, Marissa Sandy, has spoken out about the dangers posed by ongoing encampments. She has said, "Every time I come down here, I see nothing but violence. I see nothing but people doing alcohol and drugs." Chair, where the local community is saying a public space has become unsafe, we need to listen. This is why the Shrinner Council has acted decisively to protect both the community and those experiencing homelessness. Our policy is clear. Those sleeping rough will be connected with services, given every possible opportunity to access help, but if they refuse, they will be moved on within 24 hours. This is about setting expectations, about ensuring that we are a city that extends a hand to those in need, but also does not allow lawlessness to take hold. It is also about respecting the Brisbane residents who pay their rates and expect our parks and public spaces to be safe, clean and family friendly. Chair, despite what the opposite may claim, the reality is that allowing rough sleeping to remain in parks is not an act of compassion, it's an act of neglect. It is not compassionate to allow people to live in unsanitary, unsafe conditions without access to proper hygiene, medical care or secure accommodation. The true measure of compassion is ensuring that people have stable roofs over their heads and the support they need to rebuild their lives. That is why the Shrinner Council continues to work with the Department of Housing, Police and Queensland Health to ensure real pathways out of homelessness. It is why we support organisations that provide essential services such as emergency shelters, addiction treatment and mental health support. But Chair, let me be clear. We are doing everything possible to connect people with assistance. We will not allow our parks to become permanent shelters. For nearly a century, local laws in Brisbane have prohibited camping in public spaces. These laws exist for a reason: to protect public spaces for all residents and to prevent formation of unsafe encampments. Our enforcement approach is about ensuring these laws are upheld while also giving people every opportunity to find more suitable and stable living arrangements. Now, Chair, I have no doubt that those opposite will attempt to misrepresent this approach. The Labor Green coalition of chaos has already tried to claim that our efforts to keep Brisbane's parks safe are cruel and lacking compassion. But let me remind the chamber of their hypocrisies. These are the same people who claim to care about homelessness while simultaneously oppose new housing developments at every term.
Councillor Hutton, your time has expired.
Thank you, Chair.
Any further questions? Councillor Griffith.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. My question is to the Lord Mayor. Lord Mayor, sadly I'm again raising a question about the clearing of Stable Swamp Creek in Rocklea. Just in the last week I've had council officers confirm that there is 450 tonnes of silt clogging this creek. I have residents visit my office who are visibly traumatised every time there is a predicted rain event, asking why this work has still not occurred. Lord Mayor, put yourself in the residents' shoes. Could you imagine packing up your family, not knowing where you're going to return to? This is soul-destroying for these families. I ask you to look into the camera tonight, Lord Mayor, because I have residents from Rocklea watching, and could you tell them why you've done nothing over the last 3 years in relation to Stable Swamp Creek? Lord Mayor, you have the ability here to do something. You are the leader of this city. When are you going to do something to alleviate the fear and anxiety that residents in Rocklea suffer every time there's a significant rain event and actually clear Stable Swamp Creek?
Lord Mayor.
One of the key reasons that residents have fear and anxiety is the way that you've approached this, Councillor Griffiths, The false claims that you've made, the false
Point of
hopes that
order.
you've given.
Point of order. Councillor
I'm
Jones.
sure, Mr Deputy Chair, you want to stop the Lord Mayor from directly addressing Councillor Griffiths, as that is inappropriate under the meeting's local law.
Yeah.
Plus, Mr Chair, Deputy Chair, it's also inappropriate to debate the question rather than answer it.
Look, Lord Mayor, please address through the chair.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Councillor Griffiths has continued to peddle false information and false hope. The idea that doing some work in a creek will suddenly eliminate flooding is false, and it's false hope. And that's what he's continued to do.
Point of order.
Yeah, point of order. Councillor Griffith.
Claim to be misrepresented.
Noted.
We've seen Councillor Griffiths, who is the longest serving councillor in this place, achieve very little for his community over that time, but he's very good at playing politics. He's very good at whipping people up, making them upset and angry at someone else other than himself, giving them false hope, and that's exactly what's happened with this situation. Now, let's remember that it was the Labor state government, his colleagues in the Labor Party, that refused to do anything about Stable Swamp Creek. When we put our funding on the table and we committed to doing work on our section, the Labor state government did nothing, wasn't interested, played politics.
Yeah, point of order.
The
Councillor Griffith.
question clearly is, Lord Mayor, what are you going to do now? Not histrionics, it's what are you actually going to do now? You're the leader of the city.
Thank you. The Lord Mayor is providing the answer.
He doesn't want the residents who are watching to know about the history because he's been called out. He's been called out for playing politics on this issue. And so, fundamentally, in the short period of time that this new government has been in, we've got a commitment from them to do to hold up their end of the bargain and to do work on their section. That's something that Councillor Griffiths was never able to achieve, despite having a decade of Labor state governments, of people that he knew and supposedly had relationships with, of people that he could lobby and advocate to, but no, he just played the politics.
Point of order. Councillor Griffith.
Can the Lord Mayor give us a time frame for when this work will be done? Residents want to know.
I don't uphold that point of order. Lord Mayor.
And so what I would simply say is we're determined to see work happen as soon as it can. We're determined that if that work can improve the situation, then by all means, that's a great thing. But please, Councillor Griffiths, stop trying to pretend that this will eliminate flooding in Stable Swamp Creek. It will not. It will not. It will simply not. And it's actually really irresponsible to suggest that it will, because we know it won't. We know it could improve the situation, but it certainly won't eliminate flooding.
Well, point of order is, what does the Lord Mayor say with the officer's report of 450 tonnes of silt to be removed?
Yeah, Councillor Griffith, if you want to ask another question, please do that next time. Lord Mayor.
Councillor Griffiths actually knows that the work was scheduled to occur and was interrupted actually by the cyclone itself. And so he knows this. He's been briefed on this. So this question is nothing but politics. And it's shameful that once again he's playing with residents when it comes to this issue, when he should be working on their behalf. He did nothing for years and years. He achieved nothing, and now he's playing politics again. This side, we'll actually get things done. We'll make sure this program happens. We've got the support of the state government, and we'll get on with it as soon as we can.
Further questions? Councillor Griffith, your misrepresentation.
Yeah, the Lord Mayor repeated again, claimed that I have been telling residents this will stop flooding. I have never done that. Never. Never. The only person who's ever said that is the Lord Mayor, and he's never attended a meeting with residents out there, and he has never been prepared to face residents to talk about the 450 tonnes of silt that's clogging that creek.
Councillor Edward.
Thank you. My question is to the Chair of the Communities and the Arts Committee, Councillor Howard. Councillor Howard, we have just heard from Councillor Hutton about the action we have taken to protect public health and safety in our parks and open spaces. Can you please update the Chamber on the many services and opportunities that are available to vulnerable people to protect their health and safety?
Councillor Howard.
Thank you, Deputy Chair, and through you I thank Councillor Atwood for the question. Even though the state government is responsible for homelessness and social housing, we are doing everything possible as a local government to help the most vulnerable people in our community. Because no one should have to experience what it's like to be homeless, and that is why this Shrinner Council has delivered record investment for homelessness supports. One of the very first initiatives that Councillor Adrian Schrinner delivered on becoming Lord Mayor in 2019 was to establish a new grant program to help address homelessness in Brisbane, the Pathways Out of Homelessness program. We have invested $6 million in 14 projects since the program was launched in 2019, which has provided help to more than 5,700 residents through more than 8,100 cases of support. And we've helped 614 people transition into long-term housing. One of those projects is Brisbane Housing Company's Home and Health Project, a new mobile health service that was launched in 2023 to provide health care for those who need it most. We know that approximately 40% of failed tenancies are due to poor health management. With funding from the Shrinner Council, the Home and Health Project addressed the hidden health needs of Brisbane's most vulnerable living in community housing by delivering bespoke and place-based health services to support people with complex health needs. Our funding enabled them to deliver 173 health clinics and to help 236 people. 40% of the people they helped said that they were able to avoid an emergency department admission. And 99% of those clients have successfully maintained their tenancy. The Institute for Urban Indigenous Health also received funding from this Shrinner Council to deliver an early intervention model to support 65 First Nations people and families to prepare, establish and maintain their tenancies. Another project funded by Pathways Out of Homelessness was Beyond DV's Pathways to Hope project, which enabled Beyond DV to deliver more than 2,500 occasions to support 135 women. 114 of those women were able to gain stable housing thanks to the Pathways to Hope. Now, whilst I can't go into the detail of individual cases, I can tell you that these projects have made such an incredible difference to so many of our most vulnerable residents, thanks to funding from the Shrinner Council's Pathways Out of Homelessness program. Heartbreaking situations that have turned into heartwarming stories of resilience, opportunity and success. These are just a few examples of projects the Shrinner Council's Pathways Out of Homelessness program is delivering outcomes for our most vulnerable residents. And it's why we will continue to deliver the Pathways Out of Homelessness program, because it is delivering a real on-the-ground difference. Of course, Deputy Chair, our Pathways Out of Homelessness program is just one of the many initiatives delivered by the Shrinner Council. Council also employs public space liaison officers within our Safe Communities team to engage with people who are experiencing homelessness and are in public spaces. And can I say thank you to our most amazing PSLOs who work tirelessly to deliver that support. And we've seen that just over the last couple of weeks. They're just amazing human beings. We also deliver Homeless Connect, a full-day event which provides food, clothes, shoes, haircuts and medical services to people experiencing or at risk of homelessness. We have helped more than 22,000 people since our first Homeless Connect in 2006. When council needs to resume or purchase properties for future infrastructure works, we make these houses available as temporary accommodation for people experiencing homelessness through our Community Housing Partnership Program, which has helped more than 1,500 since its launch. And just recently, we took the lead to establish an interagency working group together with the Queensland Police Service, Department of Housing and Public Works and Queensland Health, which has successfully helped numerous vulnerable residents out of homelessness and into accommodation. Thank goodness we now have a new government at 1 William Street that is truly
Councillor Howard,
committed
your time
to
has
delivering.
expired. Further question. Councillor Johnston.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Chair. My question is to the Lord Mayor. Lord Mayor, in 2011, the public pontoon at the Taylor Bridge Park in Chelmer was severely damaged, and then council refused to replace it. After the 2022 floods, the public pontoon at Paragon Street Park in Yeronga was severely damaged, and council refused to replace it. Now, after the 2025 floods, again in my ward, the public pontoon at Graceville Riverside Parklands has been catastrophically damaged and is closed, meaning Sailability cannot deliver their essential services to provide disabled people with inclusive sailing and recreational opportunities. Will you promise today to urgently fix the public pontoon so that it can be reopened for use by Sailability, the Pamphlet Sea Scouts and members of the public, and provide a public timeframe for its repair?
Lord Mayor.
Well, any repairs are subject to negotiation, discussion and funding support from other levels of government, just as they always have been. We'll obviously go through that process just like we have in the past. And ultimately, if we get the funding support to do the rebuilds, well, we'd love to be able to do those rebuilds. Ultimately, council doesn't have an unlimited bucket of money. Last flood, the budget of council was out of pocket by $330 million. And that is something that had a significant impact financially. $330 million of things that couldn't be done as a result of a natural disaster. And that was a significant impact that the ratepayers had to wear. And we obviously worked hard to keep down those costs for ratepayers. But the more funding and support we get from other levels of government, the more we can do when it comes to repair and recovery. And also, we also know...
Councillor Johnston, you asked a question. Councillor Johnston. Councillor Johnston. Councillor Johnston, you are on a warning now. Do not speak while the other councillors having the floor. Lord Mayor.
And so we're happy to have a look at any project that needs to be done and negotiate with the other levels of government, seek funding to support the rebuilding process. But this is a joint responsibility between all three levels of government, as it always has been. And so Councillor Johnston repeatedly puts out information that can be misleading and is not verified. We've seen it again and again and again, claims that she makes, which then, when you actually have a look at the reality, it's a completely different situation. We heard that earlier in the meeting, in the last meeting, when she was accusing LNP councillors of getting priority access to information with the opening of the River Life Evacuation Centre. Well, do you know why Councillor Hutton knew about that first? Because she organised it. She organised it. It was not a council evacuation centre.
Point of order.
It was a community evacuation centre, and she organised
Excuse me,
it.
Lord Mayor. Point of order, Councillor Johnston.
Claim to be misrepresented.
Noted. Yep, Lord Mayor. Yep, Councillor Johnston, your misrepresentation.
Yes, the Lord Mayor's made deliberately false comments about my statements earlier today. He actually announced the opening of 2 council-led evacuation centres and only told the LNP councillors, and Councillor Sarah Hutton published that information on her Facebook page, and that information was not available through the LDCC or publicly otherwise. So council evacuation centres were provided only to the LNP councillors and not to other councillors.
Any further questions? Councillor Toomey.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Chair. My question is to the Chair of the Infrastructure Committee, Councillor Wines. Thank you. Councillor Wines, we're delivering on our commitment to keep Brisbane moving. Can you please update the Chamber on the latest initiatives this council is rolling out to unblocking congestions on our suburban roads?
Councillor Wines.
Thanks, Mr Chair. And can I thank Councillor Toomey for his question and his keen and ongoing interest. As many councillors should recall, there's a program in the GAP ward right now that is our Brisbane Clearway Action Plan. And it is part of our ongoing commitment to keeping this city moving. We have to tackle congestion in a range of ways, and sometimes one of those ways we can do that is by taking the existing roadway and adjusting the signs and lines to make it more efficient and more safe in its operation. We have begun a review process across the city, with Musgrave Road and Waterworks Road being the first of this program, the Brisbane Clearway Action Plan. As we know, congestion doesn't just impact on motorists, but impacts public transport users. In particular, Councillor Toomey has a very popular bus service that interacts through Waterworks Road, and opportunities to get that more reliable and more consistent would also improve its appeal and make that corridor work even better. The initiative is about making real and measurable improvements to how people move across our city by ensuring that our road network is being used efficiently during the times it's needed most. Now, right now, as I say, the corridor under consideration, Red Hill to the Gap. There is a 6-week community consultation open. We're engaging with road users, residents and businesses along the corridor. It is a principal corridor for many people, and it carries nearly 130,000 vehicles on a weekday and 39,000 vehicles over the weekend. We are considering, it is an amazing piece of transport infrastructure. It's a massive volume, and we need to ensure the road is operating as efficiently as possible. One consideration we are also taking as we work with this is that we are finding that increasingly traffic doesn't necessarily flow toward and back from the city on weekends, and congestion changes its direction and its time frame on weekends. And that's also part of this study, to work out what is the best way to keep Ashgrove and the Gap and Red Hill moving on all 7 days. The current clearway times were set more than 15 years ago. However, Brisbane's population has increased and demand for this and all corridors has grown. This review will consider extending weekday clearway times and introducing clearway times on the weekends. Extending the clearway operating times would open additional traffic lanes for use when that clearway is active. Once the feedback is collected and reviewed, we hope to implement later this year. The example project where we tested out whether this concept would work was in the very nearby Kelvin Grove and Noggle Road corridor. Kelvin Grove Road and Noggle Road corridor. So this is where we did I suppose we call it a trial or a pilot, to see if the mere adjusting of signs and time zones in that corridor and extending them a mere 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour in the evening delivered travel time savings of almost 6,500 travel hours per year. And that's thousands of hours saved for commuters who would be on their ordinary commute to and from work. This benefit was gathered simply by ensuring that the road space was used efficiently at the times when people sought to use it. We know that Sydney's Clearway strategy, similar changes in that jurisdiction led to travel time reductions from up to 46% on weekdays and 40% on weekends. And we know that using our existing assets is a much more cost-effective way of reaching our goals, not just in one particular intersection or one particular corridor, but right across the city. And that's why once we complete the Musgrave Road, Waterworks Road corridor, we will then consider Bowen Bridge Road, Lutwyche Road, Abbotsford Road, Wynnum Road, Vulture Street, Wellington Road, Moggle Road, Webster Road, Wickham Terrace, Leichhardt Street, St Paul's Terrace and Clump Road as part of our ongoing program to ensure that we get the best use of our existing road asset. One interesting feature that we find with road use management, and why you will find some of these roads will be near each other in the order they're presented, is that when efficiencies are gained in a road network, it actually draws other motorists to it. So we want the benefit to be balanced and not across, and not see one corridor, the efficient corridor, carry vastly more than a nearby corridor that hasn't had this treatment. So we'll be doing these in an order that ensures the most benefit
Councillor Wise, your
for the
time
most
has
people.
expired. Further question. Councillor Chong-Wah.
Thank you, Chair. My question is to the Lord Mayor. Many Brisbane residents and body corporates in flood planning areas 1 and 2 are either finding it impossible to get insurance cover for flooding, or the insurance premiums are so high as to be unaffordable. It is actually legal requirement for body corporates to obtain insurance for the common property. This means body corporates may also be forced to pay extremely high premiums, which adds even more financial pressure to our residents who have been encouraged to build, buy and live in high-risk flood zones. My question is, what will this LNP Council administration do to ensure Brisbane residents can afford flood insurance or even have the option to obtaining flood insurance?
Lord Mayor.
Well, in terms of insurance, I'm not sure why the council is asking me about insurance. That is certainly a matter beyond the council remit, and insurance is something that there is a market for, there are multiple providers for, and people should absolutely, as they do, shop around for the best insurance options. Not all insurance options are the same, and we know from experience that where one insurer is extremely expensive or refuses to insure a particular location, there's often other insurers that will provide options. But fundamentally, what we're talking about here is buildings that should have been designed with flood resilience in mind. And so if the building has been designed according to our requirements, and particularly the newer the building, the better those requirements will be, then the costs associated with flood events will be dramatically reduced because those building requirements ensure that if there is flood inundation in certain areas, first of all, that doesn't go into habitable areas of new buildings. And we've seen plenty of examples of where maybe a basement area or a downstairs area is inundated, but not people's habitable areas. And that's because buildings are being built in a much more resilient way. And so if the building has been designed according to the modern standards, then this will not be the devastating kind of cost for insurance that you're suggesting, Councillor Chong-Wah, because the costs of recovery should be dramatically reduced if it is designed the right way, and that will allow buildings and body corporates to be able to bounce back quicker and to recover quicker because of those resilient standards. We've seen examples around this all around Brisbane of where buildings and homes that have been built in a resilient way, yes, they may still experience some flooding, but the clean-up and the cost is dramatically reduced. And so our focus has been on making sure that building standards are constantly updated to make sure that those buildings are resilient and people in those newer buildings are certainly not getting flooded into their habitable areas. And as I said, it might be some basement areas that might experience some inundation, but also there are ways to make those recoveries faster and less costly if they're designed according to our recommendations and standards.
Any further questions? Councillor Wolf.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair. And my question is to the Chair of the City Planning and Suburban Renewal Committee, Councillor Allen. Councillor Allen, the Shrinner Council is making Brisbane's lifestyle even better by supporting our vibrant local business community. Can you please update the Chamber on how our better access, more customers strategy will help businesses across our city to thrive?
Councillor Allen.
Well, thank you, Mr Deputy Chair, and thank you to Councillor Wolf for the question. As a council dedicated to supporting access and inclusion, we are acutely aware of the struggles that those with disabilities can face, particularly when it comes to enjoying the services and products of our businesses. Whether these are physical disabilities affecting mobility or disabilities that affect speech, communication, hearing, sight or learning, there is a large segment of the community that can be left behind when it comes to enjoying the offerings of our businesses. About 18% of Australians live with a disability of some kind, and 16% of the population consists of those aged 65 years and over. Now, we know that many businesses want to improve access to their products and services for precisely these people, but are unsure where to start. And this is what the Better Access, More Customers Guide is intended to address. Some of the following questions will be answered via this guide. So, how can businesses become more accessible and inclusive so that people of any age, background or ability can enjoy what they are providing? How can businesses ensure that their products and services are reaching as many people as possible? And where do businesses start when it comes to accommodating for those with different kinds of disabilities? Having been developed with the help of Spinal Life Australia, a more than 60-year-old organisation that's dedicated its efforts to supporting those with disabilities, the guide highlights simple, achievable and no or low-cost ways for businesses to enhance access to products or services. It covers matters like creating a barrier-free environment, so this ensures items are in reach of people with say, disabilities or in wheelchairs, adapting the customer experience, so this means having clear language and visuals so that people can see what's available, updating a digital presence, and training and supporting staff so that they are aware of people with disabilities. These all help provide more customers with the best experience possible. It's important to note that the guide does not function as a regulatory burden on businesses. It's not a mandatory measure, it's not about red tape, and it's not about additional compliance requirements. It's about creating a win-win for both the broader community and businesses. While the broader community benefits from greater access and experiences, the businesses benefit from, and as the name suggests, more customers. And this is because an estimated 5 million Australian seniors and others with a disability have a collective disposable income of more than $40 billion, but cannot access products and services due to poor design. Helping our businesses tap into additional market can boost their success, and the practical examples and cases that the guide offers include something like this one here, where a local bar called Beyond Pale puts it: "We have continued to improve our revenue with lower tables and more circulation space to enable people with mobility devices to have more enjoyable visits." As I said, a win-win for everybody. Mr Deputy Chair, the Better Access, More Customers Guide adds to the long list of resources that the Shrinner Council offers to support our valued businesses, building on the precinct playbook that helps promote, support, refresh and activate businesses and local precincts. As the most small business-friendly council in Australia, we will always ensure that our businesses have the tools and resources necessary to not only survive but to thrive. Thank you.
Further questions? Councillor Cassidy.
Thank you, Chair. My question is to the Lord Mayor. Lord Mayor, in the wake of ex-tropical cyclone Alfred, many residents across Brisbane missed a weekly bin collection. For 15,000 people, they never came a second time. Tens of thousands of people also missed out on a recycling or green bin collection as well. Will you commit to providing a rates rebate to residents who didn't get a service that they paid for?
Lord Mayor.
Wowee, that's a fascinating question from someone who wanted to cut the red top bin collection from weekly to fortnightly as part of his failed
Extraordinary.
BOGO proposal. This is exactly what they were talking about. A fortnightly red top bin collection was their plan. How do you think that would go down with the residents of Brisbane after recent experiences? It was a toxic plan.
It was a rubbish plan.
It was a rubbish plan,
Point of order.
Councillor Cunningham.
Point of order.
Point of order. I'd ask the Lord Mayor to come back to the question, which was, will he pay a rebate to residents who didn't get their bin collected and save us from the Trumpian speech he's doing?
Lord Mayor has 5 minutes to answer, Lord Mayor.
What a tremendous comment there. Tremendous comment from Councillor Griffiths. Yeah, nice try. So what we saw going into the election was Labor proposing to cut, the only way they could possibly fund their ridiculous FOGO proposal was to cut the red top bin from weekly to fortnightly.
Point of order.
Do you think this is relevant to a question about a rebate for a council service, the last election? Do you think this is relevant, Chair?
Lord Mayor has 5 minutes to answer.
Do you think this is relevant?
The Lord Mayor has 5 minutes to answer.
Chair, do you think this is relevant?
I already answered that.
No, you
Please.
didn't.
I'm trying to...
Do you think this is relevant? The Lord Mayor talking about the last council election.
Councillor Cassidy, the Lord Mayor has 5 minutes to answer. Please sit down.
So you think this is relevant?
So you can say anything you want.
You're a walking act.
I believe the Lord Mayor is providing the answer in his 5 minutes, and it is relevant. Lord Mayor.
We know something that is definitely not relevant, Mr Chair, and that is the Leader of the Opposition. No relevance whatsoever. But in terms of, he was asking a question about bin collections. It's absolutely relevant to talk about his record and what he proposed and what his team tried to do to cut the weekly red top bin to fortnightly. We know how that would have been received by residents. We know it would have been a disaster. But in relation to a rebate, the reality is this. Council and its contractor did everything possible in a natural disaster situation to collect as many bins as possible and to keep the community and the drivers safe. And so if people think that that was unreasonable and they're asking for a rebate, well, the rebate of collection, Councillor Hutton, what would that amount to?
91 cents, Chair.
91 cents. 91 cents. And so we won't be providing a 91 cent rebate for a miscollection. We won't be doing that. But what we will be doing is making sure that we support the recovery of the city and that we continue to deliver the services that people would expect. But in a natural disaster situation, of course, there are going to be disruptions. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. And so we apologise that there were disruptions. Those disruptions were caused by a natural disaster situation, which included concerns about the safety of the drivers, recommendations from state authorities, also flooded roads in outside waste collection depots, flooded roads across the city which prevented us from collecting bins in certain locations. If any reasonable people looks at that, a person looks at this situation, they would understand that our waste collection drivers did their best in challenging circumstances and they're continuing to do their best. to catch up, and we appreciate them for the work that they've done. Yes, it is disappointing that there were missed bin collections, but in a situation like this, I think it's understandable, and knowing what we know about the impacts right across the city with various waste collection depots and closed roads, I actually think they did a fantastic job of delivering as many services as possible, and then afterwards catching up with as many of those missed collections as possible. And that included working on the Sunday, the day that we received the most rain in 50 years, in a single day. They were out there collecting bins. And so I know that not everyone was happy with that situation, but I think our drivers and the team in council did a fantastic job despite the circumstances. And no, we won't be providing a 91-cent rebate.
That ends question time. Lord Mayor, Establishment and Coordination Committee report of 3rd March 2025.
Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, I move that the report of the Establishment and Coordination Committee meeting held on 3rd of March 2025 be adopted.
Seconded.
It was moved by the Lord Mayor, seconded by the Deputy Mayor, that the report of the Establishment and Coordination Committee meeting dated Monday, 3rd March 2025 be adopted. Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Before I move to the item, I just wanted to draw attention to two of the questions that were asked and the way in which those questions were framed and the misleading and deceptive way that those questions were framed, and actually provide accurate information in response. So first of all, Councillor Johnston, the way that her question was framed about pontoons, there were a couple of examples mentioned. First was Paragon Street, and then the Taylor Bridge Reserve, saying that these pontoons weren't replaced and saying it was outrageous. Repeating that claim. Okay, so Paragon Street, the pontoon there actually had no public access. There was no way to get to the pontoon. Are we going to replace a pontoon with no public access? Would that be a good use of taxpayer or ratepayer money? No public access.
Councillor Johnston, stop calling out.
The truth comes out, and
Lord Mayor,
time and time again.
Councillors, Councillor Johnston, stop calling out. Councillors, the Lord Mayor has the floor.
Point of order, Chair.
Yep, point of order.
You just named Councillor Johnston for calling out, and fair enough, but you didn't name Councillor Murphy for calling out at Councillor Johnston that she was being like Trump now. And you heard it. You smirked.
There were too much audible noise on the floor.
You should pull him up for inappropriate behaviour during the meeting.
The point of order, Chair. Happy to be reprimanded or ordered out of the chamber or go home tonight.
That is not point of order. I don't uphold your point of order. Yeah. Lord Mayor.
So, the truth comes out. So let's go back. Councillor Johnston claimed that it was somehow outrageous that this pontoon hadn't been replaced, suggesting that there was a disadvantage to the community. The way in which she asked the question, you would indicate that this was a critical public asset that had a lot of use and needed to be replaced. The devil is always in the detail when Councillor Johnston speaks in this place. The pontoon in Paragon Street in Yeronga was landlocked and only accessible to a unit complex that has direct access to the river, a gated complex with no public access. And so this is what happened. And Councillor Johnston is outraged that we didn't spend taxpayer money to benefit a single unit complex. So that's number one. Number two, the Taylor Reserve pontoon. The Taylor Reserve pontoon was connected to the Taylor Reserve, and in fact much of the Taylor Reserve was washed into the river in the flood and no longer exists. There was actually no land to connect the pontoon. So once again, the devil is in the detail. There was nothing to connect it to. And so, once again, you look at the detail, you look at the reality, and it is highly misleading. Highly misleading. The questions, the claims that Councillor Johnston made are highly misleading. You can't connect a pontoon to land that doesn't exist anymore. Now, I move to Councillor Griffiths. Councillor Griffiths has continued to pursue this idea that somehow removing silt will improve flooding. He said, yeah, he just said yes, okay? Well, the work has, sorry to say, Councillor Griffiths, never been about flood mitigation. It never was. And the only person that's claimed that is you. The only person that has given that impression is you, Councillor Griffiths. Okay, so the project involved the proposed removal of 300 to 350 tonnes of material. Now, that sounds like a lot, doesn't it? Well, this equates to approximately 150 to 200 cubic metres of material. So, translating tonnes into cubic metres. And this is 150 to 200 cubic metres in a waterway with millions of cubic metres of waterway storage and capacity. Millions. So do you think 150 to 200 cubic metres?
Point of order, Councillor Griffith.
Just to help the Lord Mayor with that figure, it's 33 garbage truck full of silt. 33 garbage trucks full of silt.
And so the hydrologists who have looked at this have said it is not materially significant and will not reduce flooding. And so he continues to give residents the false hope that this is somehow a silver bullet project that will make flooding go away. It is really quite irresponsible to make such claims and to give people those impressions. What the work is for is to remove weeds, to remove weed trees in particular, to replace them with native trees and shrubs, and this is for erosion protection. This is effectively creek rehabilitation, removal of weeds, sediment, and stabilising the creek banks. That's what it's for. It's not a flood mitigation project and never has been. Yet we continue to see these claims being made by Councillor Griffiths. So there we go. Two powers in the council, same approach, misleading residents, twisting the facts around to mean something else entirely. But when the truth is revealed, the devil is in the detail.
Point of order. Point of order.
I claim to be misrepresented by the Lord Mayor.
Noted. Lord Mayor.
And it's really quite disappointing. It's a disappointing approach. But in the end, they always get found out, Mr. Chair. They always get found out. And so keep asking those deceptive and misleading questions, and we'll keep giving you the facts and the answers. And in this case, two examples just in a short period of time from each other by two collaborators, two pals. And I see Councillor Johnston has taken on a new role as the honorary legal advisor to the Greens activists, directing traffic there and do this. She knows a few things about getting removed by the police. And so it's extraordinary that Councillor Johnston is so shameless in supporting the Green activists who are trying to disrupt a meeting of council.
Point of order. Councillor Cassidy.
Thanks very much, Deputy Chair. I move the suspension of standing orders to enable me to move the following motion that Council provides a rebate on rates as soon as practical for residents and businesses who did not get their green waste, recycling or general waste bin collected because of ex-tropical cyclone Alfred, including those who failed to receive a catch-up bin collection for general waste in the days that followed.
Seconded.
It's a procedural motion moved by Councillor Cassidy, seconded by Councillor Collier. All to suspend the standing order. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. No. The noes have it.
Division.
Division.
Division called by Councillor Cassidy, seconded by Councillor Collier. Ayes to my right, noes to my left. Please ring the bell. Clerk, please read the result.
Mr Deputy Chair, the noes have it, the voting being 8 in favour and 19 against.
The motion is lost. Councillors, please return to your seats. Lord Mayor.
Point of order.
Thank you.
Point of order, Councillor Johnston.
Yes, thank you, Mr Deputy Chair. I seek leave to suspend standing orders to enable me to move an urgent motion calling on the Lord Mayor to immediately fund restoration of the public pontoon at Graceville Riverside Parklands, given his failure to repair pontoons following the 2011 and 2022 floods.
Seconded.
It was moved by Councillor Johnston, seconded by Councillor Chong-Wah to suspend the standing order. It is another procedural motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. No. The noes have it.
Division.
Division.
Division called by Councillor Johnston, seconded by Councillor Chong-Wah. Ayes to my right, noes to my left. Please ring the bell. Clerk, please read the result.
Mr Deputy Chair, the noes have it, the voting being 8 in favour and 19 against.
The motion is lost. Councillors, please return to your seats. Lord Mayor.
In relation to the question about missed bins and what the rebate would be if people were given a rebate for a miscollection, and we heard from Councillor Hutton it was approximately 91 cents. Well, I think she would know more than you, Councillor Cassidy. So it's funny because there's this view that, oh, you know, I paid, you know, $554 on my latest rates bill. I want the whole thing back because one time I didn't get my bin collected. A ludicrous claim. But we did ask, actually, you know, for interest's sake, what would it cost to give people a 91-cent rebate? Processing costs of $15 per account would be there, and that's what it would cost to process a rebate for the people who missed the bin. So, and plus the stamp as well, yeah, plus the stamp. And so this is the kind of financial mismanagement we would see from the Labor Party if they were in office, giving people a 91-cent rebate and paying $15 to actually give the 91-cent rebate plus the stamp as well. So it's a ludicrous suggestion. Like anyone in this chamber to suggest such a ridiculous thing has no understanding whatsoever about either waste collection or budget management, and that is sadly not surprising. Item A is the Stores Board submission for the significant contracting plan for maintenance services for bus air conditioning systems. This is one that, if Labor was in office, wouldn't exist, because we remember that under Labor, buses didn't have air conditioning, but instead they caught fire on a regular basis. And we saw right across the city in the past, under Labor's stewardship, no air conditioning in the majority of buses, very poor investment in the fleet, a continued underinvestment where each budget they would promise to buy a certain number of new buses and then they would fail to actually deliver on those buses. And many of those buses ended up being in such poor condition that they caught fire on the road and people had to be evacuated. I remember in my very first campaign, running for council, there was a flyer that I'll never forget, and had a photo of Campbell Newman and I on the front, and we talked about some of the things that we were going to do if we were elected, and one of them was buses that don't catch fire. We're going to deliver buses that don't catch fire, and at the time, that was a thing.
Lord Mayor, Lord Mayor, your time has expired.
Move for an extension.
Seconded.
Extension moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Dixon. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against it say no. Lord Mayor.
Thank you. And so fast forward to today, where we've got a fleet that is not only fully air conditioned, but also fully disability accessible, and accessible to people with prams as well and other devices. We've come a long way, and so this obviously is just about the ongoing maintenance of air conditioning systems on our buses, and being in a subtropical climate, obviously that's an important thing. This contract helps Council take a proactive maintenance approach. It enables us to reduce the risk of unexpected vehicle issues and any potential fleet disruptions that may cause. And also, of course, helps us to reduce our overall costs and ensures that our buses are ready to service customers. And by taking a preventative maintenance approach, we can improve the overall reliability of our bus fleet, extend the operational lifespan of vehicles, and obviously create a more comfortable environment for both the passengers and the driver as well. Thank you.
Any further debate? Councillor Cassidy.
Thanks very much, Chair. I was to speak on these items before us today, and follow along from the Lord Mayor's entirely unserious, childish, and mean-spirited contribution that we've heard during this part of the day, in this ENC of the day. Lord Mayor's calculations, of course, Deputy Chair, entirely wrong about the cost to ratepayers for services not delivered, is in fact $8.90 for the waste utility charge. Councillor Hutton's wrong. I'm not talking about the green bins, I know you are, but the waste utility charge is $463.44 a year, divided by 52 weeks that general waste bins are collected. That's $8.90. We know there was 15,000 people that not only did they not get their scheduled general waste collection, but they also didn't get a catch-up service either, and we know those people missed out on either a recycling service or a green waste. So If you pay on your rates, say an extra $5 accidentally, your finger slips when you're paying on BPay, that appears as a credit on the next rates bill. So all we're asking for is an $8.90 plus the 91 cents or whatever that Councillor Hutton as a credit on the next bill. Now, Council knows exactly where these people are located that miss those services because contractors record all of that data. So the Lord Mayor is wrong again, entirely disingenuous, and these people have paid for a service. They are not getting that service. I suspect that's not legal.
Yeah.
I mean, the competition rules in which council operates under dictate that if you pay for a service, you need to get that service. So I guess maybe residents need to take it up with the ACCC or something like that, because the Lord Mayor has not made a serious attempt to compensate people for services not delivered. Contractors made a very serious attempt to get to as many bins as they possibly could, and I commend them for it, and I appreciate Councillor Hutton's communication over the last week about that. Genuinely appreciate that, the open dialogue we had. But what I'm saying is there are still people after all that hard work that missed out on those services, and they deserve to have that rebated.
Point of order, Deputy Chair. Is this about the bus aircon still?
Councillor Cassidy, can you come back to the report?
Yeah, I just.
Thanks very much, Deputy Chair. So the Lord Mayor, in one breath, just a minute ago, claimed that no buses were air conditioned when Labor, Jim Sawley was Lord Mayor, and then in the next breath said that there were buses that were air conditioned. Made some other claims to sort of suggest if someone was listening along would think that every single bus was exploding on the streets of Brisbane. But what did explode through the 1990s and early 2000s was patronage on council's buses. In the year 2000, there were 152 million passengers conveyed on council's buses and ferries and city cats as well. And what's Councillor Schrinner's envious record on public transport patronage over the last couple of years? Was it 70 million? So about maybe ticking over 80. Maybe now just ticking over 80 million passengers on council's bus network. And largely that increase thanks to 50-cent fares that have been introduced as well. So the Lord Mayor is very selective with his history when it comes to bus services in Brisbane. Not only was it a higher per capita population catching buses in Brisbane back in the 1990s and early 2000s, the raw numbers were much greater, which is why we weren't such a congested city. On Councillor Schrinner's watch now, Brisbane is the most congested city in Australia and one of the most congested cities in the world. That wasn't the case in the 1990s, was it, Lord Mayor? Through you, Deputy Chair. Nobody won't talk about that. So we will be supporting...
Happy to talk about that, Mr Chair.
What? Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Stand up and say whatever you want now.
Councillor Cassidy, please continue.
I didn't quite catch his mumbling.
Well, point of order.
Point of order, Councillor Johnston.
Mr Deputy Chair, the Lord Mayor just stood up, interjected on the record, and you've taken no action against him for interrupting the meeting. Why have you taken no action against him for interjecting in the middle of Councillor Cassidy's speech?
Yeah. Yes, well, Lord Mayor, that was not a point of order. Councillor Cassidy.
Thanks very much, Deputy Chair. We will be supporting the item at item A because we on this side of the chamber have a great track record in supporting public transport, not only through delivering 150 million services when in administration, but also delivering 50-cent fares. Yeah, maybe they had a few at dinner. On clause B, Deputy Chair, you're acting like it, yeah. You're acting like it. You're acting like a bunch of drunks, yes.
Please do not call out.
You are. And if anyone watches this, they will understand that. The puerile, behaviour that's going on that side of the chamber during this meeting tonight, this section of the council meeting, is really quite disgusting and disturbing. On clause B, Chair, the temporary changes to council standing committee membership refers to Councillor Collier's impending leave as she welcomes her second child into the world. The changes before us detail that I'll step into her shoes on the Finance and City Governance Committee from March 26. There's no temporary appointment required for the Transport Committee. I'd like to just take this opportunity to shine a spotlight on the wonderful Deputy Leader and my friend Councillor Collier for not only all she does in her community, in council and more broadly. Councillor Collier is an energetic and passionate advocate for her community all of Brisbane on a vast range of issues. We've recently seen her advocate for local park upgrades, ferry services, community safety and traffic upgrades, as well as meet with organisations just this week surrounding homelessness, and even fill sandbags in her third trimester as well. She is certainly a powerhouse, but on top of all that, Councillor Collier is a great mum and does an incredible job balancing the work, community and family needs. Now she's obviously going to be taking a well-deserved break to focus on her growing family, and we couldn't be happier for her husband Matt and their daughter Maisie as they welcome their newest family member very soon. We wish her all the best for this new and exciting chapter and look forward to continuing to work alongside her for the rest of 2025 and beyond, but enjoy the short break.
Any further debate? Councillor Johnston.
Yes, thank you. I just rise to speak briefly on item B, and I echo Councillor Cassidy's comments about Councillor Collier's contribution to the chamber, her family, her community, and all of those things. And I wish her very well with the birth of her second child. I'm sure it's going to be exciting and wonderful. I do want to put on the record my concern about one thing, however, that the changes to these committees that have been made have not been made in consultation with me, and I presume that was Councillor Howard, in case anybody's wondering, cackling. Again, I don't know why. Perhaps Councillor Cassidy, you hit the nail on the head about what they were doing in the dinner break. But I just want to say that I'm happy that Councillor Collier is being replaced, and I'm wondering why, though, there's been no replacement on the Transport Committee. And if it is because the Labor councillors are fully committed, then perhaps somebody else should have been given the opportunity to do that. So all I'm just saying is that some transparency around the arrangements would have been useful. It's not a criticism of the arrangements being made for Councillor Collier, who I fully support. She deserves to take time with her new baby and her family, but there should be some transparency around this, and we can all fill in and help if necessary.
Any further debate? Councillor Collier.
Thanks very much, and I just want to make some brief remarks on item B. And when I was reflecting on what I might say tonight, I think it's important to note that, you know, last weekend, amongst a few other things going on, it was actually International Women's Day. And sometimes, at the moment for me, it does feel like things for women in politics feel like they're getting harder, not easier, certainly. And, you know, I'm standing here today making these remarks at 35 weeks pregnant. I am really genuinely appreciative of the opportunity to have someone replace, to do the important work on the Finance Committee in my stead, and I thank Councillor Cassidy for taking up that opportunity. I know he'll do a really good job. There have been some gains, I think, to support women in politics, but there is a heck of a way to go. You know, technically there is no maternity leave for female politicians or politicians wanting to take parental leave for to be with their family. We operate in this system, you know, we heard earlier about 100 years of Brisbane City Council. This is a system that was designed by men for men. You know, I think it was, I'm pretty sure, I think it was 1949, the first female councillor was elected in the Brisbane City Council. That's 24 years after the establishment of Brisbane City Council. And the books, you know, before us today, the first council meeting 100 years ago, was all men. So, you know, there isn't even, and we reflect towards today, you know, there wasn't even a change table for, you know, people who were changing their babies in this place for the working political mums until 2021. That's not that long ago. The LNP Council, of course, changed the rules to make these meetings, quote unquote, family friendly. What is the time? It's 9:48 at 9 that we're standing here. And, you know, I note that I'm not the only working mum. I'm certainly not the only woman in this place, but we are all not with our families. But we had these changes pushed upon us because this was going to make this place more family.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Point of order.
Would Councillor Collier take a question?
Absolutely not.
I wonder who asked for the changes, who pushed it.
Councillor Adams, that is not a point of order. Councillor Collier, please continue.
I don't know what the Councillor Adams mumbled or shouted across the chamber at me, but when I do talk about things getting harder in politics, yeah, the contribution of Councillor Adams certainly towards me in this place, yeah, that's not been very nice at all. I genuinely hope...
Mr Chair.
Point of order.
Claim to be misrepresented.
Noted.
Point of order, Chair.
Oh, sorry. Councillor Adams, you haven't spoken in this meeting yet, so you can't do that. Councillor Collier.
Genuinely, I do hope that, you know, for every woman that comes after me, that things do get a little easier. And certainly, you know, having a child is a transformative time of your life. It certainly is incredibly daunting, you know, even the second time around, definitely the first time around. And I do just want to pay tribute to every single councillor for Morningside Ward. Since the ward was created, every single councillor for Morningside Ward has been a woman. Every single councillor for Morningside Ward has either had small children. The first councillor for Morningside Ward, Councillor Sharon Humphreys, her child was 6 months old when she started. Her follow-on was Councillor Shane Sutton, who had 2 children in office, one of which when she was the leader of the opposition. And I do just want to pay tribute to Councillor Sutton, former Councillor Sutton. Sarah was born, apparently, this is how the story goes, but apparently Sarah, her first daughter, was born hours after a heated council debate. Yeah. And I have got to say, I think Sarah will be my boss one day. She's an incredible young woman who has so much to go in her life. And then, of course, Riley, Councillor Sutton's second child, was born on the side of the road, which was quite an event. Councillor Cara Cook, of course, had 2 very young children when she started and welcomed her son in 2021. These are trailblazing women in the council, and there's so much more to do.
Any further debate? No further debate, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. And thank you for those that contributed to the debate on both of those items. I, on behalf of all of us, want to wish Councillor Collier all the best for the next chapter. I do just have one point to make. Councillor Collier was saying it's pretty hard for women. It's no wonder when you get the Leader of the Opposition saying that Councillor Collier is about to go on a break and have a nice break. It's not a break. It is not a break. And so that says it all. That says it all. And so the idea that the Leader of the Opposition thinks it's a break to go and have a baby, that says it all about why it's hard for women on that side of the chamber. So we heard all kinds of opinions. We heard all kinds of opinions from Councillor Collier, but she didn't call out her own colleague who said she was going on a break. So we wish you all the best, Councillor Collier. We know it's not a break. We know that it is a challenging time, but also a rewarding time, and we absolutely, genuinely wish you the best, and we look forward to seeing you again. And certainly we more than happy to put forward these changes as discussed with yourself and the Leader of the Opposition.
Now I put the E&C report to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Councillor Murphy, Transport Committee.
Mr. Deputy Chair, I move that the report of the Transport Committee meeting dated the 4th of March 2025 be adopted.
Seconded.
It was moved by Councillor Murphy, seconded by Councillor Perry, that the report of the Transport Committee meeting dated Tuesday, 4th March 2025 be adopted. Councillor Murphy, any debate? No. Now I now put the... Any further debate? I now put the report to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Councillor Wines, Infrastructure Committee.
Mr. Chair, I move that the report of the Infrastructure Committee meeting held on Tuesday, the 4th of March 2025 be adopted.
I take pleasure in seconding that, Mr. Deputy Chair.
It was moved by Councillor Wines, seconded by Councillor Toomey with pleasure, that the report of the Infrastructure Committee meeting dated Tuesday, 4th March 2025 be adopted. Councillor Wines, any further debate? There's no further debate. I now put the report to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Councillor Allen, City Planning and Suburban Renewal Committee.
Mr. Deputy Chair, I move that the report of the City Planning and Suburban Renewal Committee meeting held on Tuesday, the 4th of March 2025 be adopted.
Seconded.
It was moved by Councillor Allen, seconded by Councillor Wolf, that the report of the City Planning and Suburban Renewal Committee meeting dated Tuesday, 4th March 2025 be adopted. Councillor Allen, any further debate? No further debate. I now put the report to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Councillor Davis, Environment, Parks and Sustainability Committee.
Mr. Deputy Chair, I move that the report of the Environment, Parks and Sustainability Committee meeting of Tuesday, the 4th of March 2025 be adopted.
Seconded.
It's moved by Councillor Davis, seconded by Councillor Marks, that the report of the Environment, Parks and Sustainability Committee meeting dated Tuesday, 4th March 2025 be adopted. Councillor Davis, any further debate? No further debate. I now put the committee report to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Councillor Hutton, City Standards Committee.
Chair, I move the committee on the 4th of March be accepted.
Second.
It was moved by Councillor Hutton, seconded by Councillor Edelman, that the report of the City Standards Committee meeting dated Tuesday, 4th March 2025 be adopted. Councillor Hutton.
Chair, I just want to say how immensely proud I am of our City Standards Committee. The leadership team have done a phenomenal job over the past 2 weeks, and I too want to say a huge thank you to each and every council officer out there who's dedicated their time and effort to not only protecting our city but in the recovery efforts. Thank you so much.
Any further debate? Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Chair. I know many councillors are packing up to go home late tonight, but I just wanted to take a moment to also thank the council workers who have been working very hard patching up all the potholes throughout the weather period. In fact, when we logged a pothole on a program that we've locally started called Pothole Patrol, we've actively been driving around and literally logging coordinates in a notes app and then sending that through to our office. Occasionally residents will ask, why are you doing that? Isn't there a faster way to do that? It's because the biggest form of feedback I've got from 8 months of door knocking was residents asking me, why do we have to see all these potholes around and they're not getting repaired quickly enough? So that's why my offices have taken a very proactive approach. I also drive around. I literally get out of the car, I take a photo of the pothole. I also door knock the residents around there as well, and it was working very well because within 2 days it was repaired quite quickly as well. So we love this progress. We hope that it's kept up by this Brisbane City Council here. While I had the Lord Mayor here tonight as well, I wanted to flag one of the petitions that we also moved just at the previous meeting in relation to resurfacing and improving Benheim and Ormskirk Street. I would also love for him to consider Van Dieren Road at this next budget submission as well. The problem that we have in Pollara is where I constantly hit a wall in relation to Van Dieren Road because of the Pollara District Sports Park plans to upgrade there, but anytime we ask for anything we're told to look for further funding, which is subject to the Lord Mayor, and so I'm not able to get any time timelines for any kind of improvement. And just to save from speaking in general business, I wanted to add that I was going to mention Polaris Shopping Centre that recently opened this last week, which was very exciting for local residents. And also I did note that around the 1st or 2nd of March, 15 days before the election, the Lord Mayor was out in Pollara mentioning the need for basic services in the area. In fact, he actually said, quote unquote,
Councillor Kim, sorry.
one of the key issues here is obviously local facilities, having access to local facilities, whether that's childcare or future retail facilities. People need these facilities in this part of Brisbane, and there's huge...
Councillors, please speak to the committee report. It is not general business. Any further debate? No further debate. Councillor Hutton. I now put the committee report to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Councillor Howard, Community and the Arts Committee.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. I move that the report of the Community and Arts Committee meeting held on Tuesday the 4th of March 2025 be adopted.
Seconded.
It's been moved by Councillor Howard, seconded by Councillor Edward, that the report of the Community and Arts Committee meeting dated Tuesday, 4th March 2025 be adopted. Councillor Howard. Any further debate? As there is no further debate, I now put the report to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Deputy Mayor, Finance and City Governance Committee.
Thanks, Deputy Chair. I move that the report of the Finance and City Governance Committee meeting held on Tuesday, the 4th of March 2025 be adopted.
Seconded.
It was moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Dixon, that the report of the Finance and City Governance Committee meeting dated Tuesday, 4th March 2025 be adopted. Deputy Mayor. Any further debate? As there is no further debate, I now put the report to the vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against it say no. The ayes have it. Councillors, are there any petition? No. Do I need to do a general business? Councillors, are there any general business? Councillor Chong-Wah.
Thank you, Chair. I rise to speak on the ex-cyclone Alfred flooding and council stormwater systems. This LNP council for the last 20 years has not been honest with the residents about the true cost of building, buying and living in high-risk flood zones. This is no surprise, as the Liberal National Party has for decades actively undermined climate change awareness and action. At the same time, we have been hit with 3 major floods in less than 15 years. Many residents struggle to afford flood insurance premiums or can't even get flood insurance. As the Chief Executive of the Insurance Council of Australia said, if we keep repeating the mistakes of the past, building homes in areas well known to be flood prone, those homes are going to be the hardest to insure. Repeating the mistakes of the past, it's like a theme song for the LNP. Climate crisis, nothing to see here. Let's keep building and flooding so the money keeps rolling in for our developer mates. Even better, let's give them 75% discount on infrastructure levies if they keep building in flood-prone areas. Let's be clear. Infrastructure levy discounts to developers are undermining investment in stormwater upgrades. The lack of action and investment by this LNP Council over the last 20 years to make this city more resilient to the climate crisis is verging on criminal neglect. I have a message for our Lord Mayor through the Chair and this LNP administration. We are in a climate crisis. In 2019, the Australian Government National Emergency Management Agency predicted an increased risk of tropical cyclones for Brisbane due to climate change. This is exactly what we saw with ex-cyclone Alfred. The LNP administration must stop giving infrastructure levy discounts to developers and urgently spend those millions of dollars on stormwater infrastructure and advanced bioretention systems. Our city urgently needs to become more resilient. Brisbane's 2011 flood had about 1% probability of happening in any given year. Brisbane's February 2022 floods had less than 2% probability of occurring. And now in 2025, Brisbane had the wettest day in 50 years, higher than the previous 2 floods, with the heaviest March rainfall for 117 years. A recent Insurance Council of Australia's report on climate change states that even the old approach of buildings in areas that are with a 1% probability that's flood zone 1 is no longer sufficient. Yet this LNP Council still encourages development even on zone 1. I'll repeat that, even on flood zone 1. The Australian Insurance Council's recommendation, unsurprisingly, aligned with the Greens policy of not building on flood zone 1 and 2. As the Insurance Council says, our current planning systems are not protecting our residents from flood risk. The 2019 Brisbane River Strategic Floodplain Management Plan reports that the Brisbane River floodplain has the largest number of buildings on any floodplain in Australia. Geoscience Australia agencies stated that the Brisbane River floodplain is the most flood-impacted area in Australia, with almost 300 million in annualised damages, a figure expected to grow. What is this LNP Council doing to make Brisbane more resilient? They encourage building on our highest risk flood zones, so surely they can investing in our stormwater infrastructure. Well, actually, they're not. Each year, our budget barely covers basic maintenance with little investment in upgrading our stormwater system. This LNP Council has even created loopholes so their developer friends don't have to pay for stormwater upgrades to meet contemporary standards. When a development is approved on land with pre-existing buildings, it only needs to meet an outdated 1 and 2 year stormwater standard, meaning the stormwater system is likely to be exceeded once every 2 years. The new standard is a 1 and 2 year standard, but it is only applied to new developments on outlying greenfield sites. In their 20 years in power, this LNP Council has overseen most major developments in our highest risk flood zones without upgrading stormwater systems or requiring private developers to meet contemporary standards. They have taken a huge gamble.
Councillor Chongwa, your time has expired. Councillor, before we go ahead, are there any statements required as a result of an Office of the Independent Assessor or Councillor Ethics Committee order? No? Further general business. Councillor Johnston.
Yes, thank you, Mr Deputy Chair. I rise to speak on flood recovery from all floods. I just want to put on the record my concern today about the Lord Mayor's behaviour in response to the question I asked earlier today. The public pontoon at Graceful Riverside Parkland is a valuable community asset. It is used by Sailability, who are an extraordinary group of volunteers who provide sailing and recreational opportunities to severely disabled people. I'm a huge supporter of their work, and I am extremely concerned at the glib nature and the lack of compassion that the Lord Mayor showed towards what is a serious problem. Now, the reason I am concerned that the pontoon has been damaged is that it's been fixed previously. It's supposed to rise and fall with the tide and didn't. The force of Oxley Creek ripped it off its moorings, and it was quite dangerous in how it actually sort of finished up after the flood. Now, the issue today, of course, is the Lord Mayor didn't commit to actually fixing it. We know that Council has already spent probably tens of millions, if not more, in initial response to the cyclone and flooding event, including, as a priority, fixing the water feature in Rocks Riverside Park. Fixing the water feature in Rocks Riverside Park. That was more of a priority after the floods than repairing a public pontoon used by a volunteer group who provide sailing opportunities to disabled people. Now, when the Lord Mayor stands up and says, I'm being dishonest or misleading, I do so knowing that in LNP wards, non-essential infrastructure has already been fixed post the flood event. In my ward, we know that essential infrastructure wasn't replaced after 2011. That was a public pontoon in a park that, despite the Lord Mayor's comments, still exists today. It had to be fixed again after 2022, but it's the park where council workers park their cars and use my side of the river to build infrastructure projects on the north side of the river. So there's a public park there. The Lord Mayor obviously has no idea of where I'm talking about. Council just decided they weren't going to replace that pontoon. Then in 2022, the pontoon at Paragon Street Park, which is a public park, council decided after that pontoon was damaged, it wouldn't be replaced. It still says on the council website that there is a pontoon at that location. Now, it's been gone for approximately 2 years. There is still one park in this city closed after the 2022 floods, and that is Cactoblastus Corner Park in Sherwood. Not only is that park still closed 3 years on since the last flood, instead of fixing it after being offered, I think it was $11 million by the state government, council didn't want to put in any of its own money, not a cent of its own money. The Lord Mayor goes, no, we're not doing it. It's too hard. We're going to abandon it. And council has just abandoned this parkland, which is catastrophically damaged after 2022. So when I stand up in this place and express concern about whether a valuable public pontoon, not only for sailability, but for the Pamphlet Sea Scouts, for Council's Active and Healthy program who run the canoeing tours off there, and for members of the public, when I stand up and say, I am concerned, and Lord Mayor, will you commit to fixing the pontoon? I don't expect to, well, we'll only do it if the federal government gives us money. That is a rubbish response. It is disrespectful to volunteer groups, and it is seriously disrespectful when you go and fix a water feature in a park that didn't flood, and meanwhile flood-damaged public assets in a non-LNP ward aren't going to get fixed. Based on your track record, that's what we can come to expect. Not only that, the Annerley Library's closed because there's mould. The South Regional Business Centre's closed because of some unknown cyclone or flood damage. So when are you going to fix these things,
Councillor
Lord Mayor,
Johnston,
and not
your
just
time
the
has
water
expired.
features in LNP wards?
Any further general business? Councillor Griffith.
Yes, thank you, Mr Chair. And it's been an interesting meeting listening to all the councillors for both meetings talk about what a wonderful job this council's done in relation to this event. And can I say, from being here 22 years and being here during the majority of time that the LNP have been in control, I've seen no change. And we've had the Jersey reports before, and I've given written feedback, and I brought it in tonight, and nothing has changed. Nothing. The organisation runs in the same disorganised way it is. The Liberals say how great it is, and we say how bad it is. And my experience is it's shocking. It was really shocking what we delivered on the ground for these residents. And I'm really disturbed the way this whole story gets played out, and then the way we do not deliver on the ground for residents. Something is really amiss here. Something is really disturbing here. And there's going to be another review, and it will find the same things, and nothing will change, and we'll have 1 million staff in the LDCC centre, and we'll have no one on the ground doing any work. Or we'll have staff on the Monday that they return to work actually doing training about how to claim back money from the state government, because that was the finance chair's priority for our staff when they returned to work on the Monday. How do you screw the state government for as much money as you can from this event, this cyclone, this flood? That was the priority for this organisation. That is pathetic. Staff are upset out there. People are upset out there. People are losing and leaving this organisation because they're ashamed of what we do. They are ashamed of this council. We're not an organisation they want to work with. They just want to clear out of here. It's disgusting. I was shocked with the Lord Mayor's response. Well, frankly, I was shocked with his lack of knowledge. Knowing it was in the paper on the weekend, knowing it's been an issue, he had no response with regard to Stable Swamp Creek other than, oh, well, Rockley floods, it's going to flood, this isn't going to make any difference. We're going to remove 450 tonnes of silt, but this ain't going to make any difference to residents. And then he goes, oh, and we've coordinated with the state LNP government to deliver for residents. Well, actually, you haven't. If you spoke to officers, you'd know it isn't being coordinated. They can't get it coordinated. You have no idea with what's going on. You have no interest in the residents of Brisbane, and you deliver poorly for the residents of Brisbane. I'm just shocked, Lord Mayor, through you, Mr. Chair, I'm shocked at your lack of any humanity for the residents at Rockley who are suffering and who continue to suffer through all these events. I am shocked. You haven't come out and met with them. You've had millions of opportunities. You won't face them. You won't talk to them. It's like the homeless people who are here tonight. You won't face them. You won't talk to them. You dismiss them. It's a joke. Yeah, I see you laughing. It's actually not a joke. We need to be, as a city, doing so much better for these people, so much better for our residents than what we're doing. It's third rate. This is a third-rate show. It's nothing to be proud of. And I'm really ashamed of your response in relation to Stable Swamp Creek, because removing all that silt, mud and debris, and the officers tell me that, the reports tell me we spent $100,000 on the reports. They say it. They say it will make a big difference. You know, it's just shocking. I'm really, really disappointed in you, Lord Mayor, through you, Mr. Chair, for the way you've delivered what you've done today.
Any further general business? Councillor Hutton.
Deputy Chair, I rise to speak on how proud I am of the incredible work that our teams have done. Unfortunately, Councillor Griffiths must have just completely missed what has happened in his community over the past 2 weeks. I can tell you that our officers have worked tirelessly. So just to end on a positive note, I just want to run through some of the great work that our team have done and some of their achievements. Now, I know we have spoken about 470,000 sandbags. We actually delivered 527,000 sandbags to our city. We established 7 temporary green waste sites, including one in Councillor Griffiths' ward. We sent 73 ARB crews out as soon as the wind ceased to remove tree debris. We opened our resource recovery centres for extended hours to support residents who couldn't get there in their ordinary hours. We opened 193 waste hubs to support our locals. Our fleet of rapid damage assessment crews were out and about, and they logged over 1,100 jobs in that week. We stood up the incident management team, who did a phenomenal job. These are the working arm of City Standards, who work with our LDCC to deliver work. Yeah, I will actually acknowledge the councillors that are exiting, because unfortunately we're talking about the great work that our officers have done. Yeah, they're clocking off, that's fine. It won't stop us actually talking about the great work that our teams have done. We have made safe 143 major trees that came down in the cyclone. We completed 1,137 street trees and we got them cleaned up. We swept all of our major bikeways to ensure that the network is safe for our cyclists. We swept all major road corridors for tree debris. We completed street sweeping at all of 18 flood-impacted suburbs. All 18 flood-impacted suburbs have been street swept. We filled 1,307 potholes in the last week. We activated 867 food bins to collect residential food waste from homes because of the electrical impacts. Now, Madam Chair, I think that is a great track record. It's disappointing to see Councillor Johnson and Councillor Griffiths again attacking our wonderful work our officers have done, and we should be super proud. I want to say thank you to Kristen. I want to say thank you to Pip and their leadership teams for what they have been able to deliver for this city. And thank you, thank you, thank you. We have a long way to go.
Any further general business? No, I declare meeting closed.